whatever milestones that Black people make against hate, it ends up benefiting all the other people of color. I can't see what his end game is. The Republican Party is the party of racism, is the party of white supremacy, is the party of hate. This is wrong, and it needs to stop.
Everybody wants to go back and drag that piece of history up, but they don't want to go back and deal with what their ancestors did to the indigenous people and to Black people in this country. You got to go. And you got billionaires talking about going to space and Jeff Bezos, go, never come back. I hope you get lost. This man has lost his mind.
Boom! Come on, girlfriend. What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, and 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads and fathers that is sponsored by Dove Plus Care. And as part of that collaboration last year, reached out directly and indirectly to over 100,000 fathers around the world. As always, I like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, solution for someone's problem. We're broadcasting live on October 29th. It's a few days from Halloween, but it's the weekend. So these days, either Saturday or Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern time, we do it. We have State of Things with Aisha and Jill. Lala is not with us tonight. She is moving. So we're going back to the old school. Where we started. Jill, we can't hear you.
You're muted.
You're muted, Jill.
Yeah,
now
that's what muted. Everybody says. Nobody ever says I'm muted unless they're trying to get away from me.
Well, we'll see how Twitter pans out. We both might be muted.
I know. I've been testing waters a little, like, what can I get away with calling somebody today? So I don't know. So far, so good.
Okay, so Aisha, great to have you back.
Thank you.
You are missed and have been missed, so it's great to have you back. We've missed your wonderful smile. And Jill had a little fun thing with her cat today.
Yeah. So this is like all of it was worse earlier, but you can see like she just went after me because she caught me feeding another cat that's been a stray that's been coming around, and I've been trying to get this cat really confident with me so I can put her in a carrier and then take her to the vet and get fixed and then, find a home for her, because she had a bunch of babies, but somehow people have been taking her babies. And let me tell you, people are racist even with cats. They didn't take the black ones.
Never. What? That's what they say in pounds, that
they took the gray one, they took the blonde ones. Yeah. And they left. There's one little tiny gray one that I'm black one that I'm worried about because I'm like somebody, but nobody takes the mom. That's why it's so sad. So now she's all alone again. She used to have like 6 babies, and now they're not with her anymore.
Oh, well, before we went live,
so Ashley is not having it. I cannot have more than one cat in the house, I guess.
So before we went live, Jill and I were on, and Jill said, "Hey, I gotta get up and get a glass of water, a cup of tea, something." And she was having a conversation with some lady and go, "Is that Jill's daughter?" I'm going, "That lady sounds like big grown woman that she's having a conversation."
Big grown woman. Yeah.
Yeah, that big one. We lost Aisha for a second, but I'm going, I'm going,
where did the time go? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going, yes, oh my goodness. He said
you sounded like a big grown woman.
I'm going I thought you were having like a friend over.
Oh, you thought it was my friend and we were having tea. Where did everybody go? I think I'm on this show alone now. Dang, gone it? That's interesting. I'm trying to, hey, everybody, if you're still out there, it looks like I might still be in the show. Where were you guys?
I just went, what happened here? Like, Aisha got left, and then I left. I'm going, what's going on?
I was like, where is everybody?
Off all of a sudden.
Yeah, but we're back, family. Sorry, we are back.
Yeah, we were just making tea in the kitchen, and I think that's what you heard our conversation briefly. It was so funny.
I heard gaslighting.
Oh yeah.
I'm going,
The
okay.
term.
I'm just going, okay, like mother, like daughter.
Right.
I'm just going, I
It's
just
true.
go, okay. That was the clue that told me, yes, it is your daughter. When I heard the gun gaslight and go, boom.
Oh yeah, she's got her senses about her. She's very swift. Yeah.
She moved back.
She's back from Texas. Yes.
Wow. Happily?
I think she's kind of mixed about where she wants to be, but Texas, I think she's very concerned, like had high hopes going there because Texas is for young people. But looking at the government, well, what happened once Elon Musk's people came and then Governor Abbott, and it's just kind of scary to take that chance. So if you have other opportunities to leave, I think the kids are leaving. Plus, there was a report that came out and said that they were actually paying more taxes than California.
Wow.
Even though there's no state tax, it's like the way that they're, so, there was more like, Newsom was a little nurturing Newsom here, was dropping cash for people and looking out. And Abbott wasn't, especially with the whole COVID situation. And she's got some, this was, you all know how it was when I was talking about what was going on in Texas. We all know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I just think they're going to cheat in the election.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's, back here working, got an album coming out, which I will keep everybody posted because it's absolutely beautiful. We should do something for it. It's gorgeous. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Would love that. Mm-hmm. Would love that. So I know you two are Twitter. Well, we're going to get to Twitter later on in the conversation.
Oh, yeah.
But I saw that there was the 40th anniversary of a very wonderful album.
The years keep going by and I'm like, 40 years. Can you guys slow down and stop counting? Good God. I was
what was the 40th anniversary album release date? For what album?
1999.
Yeah.
40 years.
Oh, jeez.
And I was just 20 years old. I had just turned 20. So working on it, I was still a teenager, 19.
Mm-hmm.
You were working on that album.
Yeah, at the beginning of the year.
So what was the first album or track you worked with Prince on?
Lady Cab Driver.
What a song. Oh, gosh. What a first song to work with Prince.
That was the first song. We got real acquainted on that song. Or we were very acquainted by the... Yeah, I mean, like we... I think now looking back, I think that is probably why there's a quote where he said something about me that I flew by the seat of my pants, or I just was like a parachute jumper with working with him and him working with me. Like there's nothing off limits. Like if it was creative, we would do it.
Wow.
Yeah, that was fun. At
Lady
Sunset
Cab
Town.
Driver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because we shared a microphone and we were so close on that vocal. It was such a great sitting at the console. It was beautiful. I still remember that because I still got the chills because you couldn't resist that little groove in the pocket. And I'd been driving him around LA while he was here. He had a new BMW and I was driving it all the time.
But you know what's funny about that song is that people always give you credit for the moaning at the end, but I don't think very many people really hear your voice under his doing the verses and
they think it's him.
They do. And I've listened to you enough, and even just talking, you can hear. Mm-hmm. But it once they released originals and that vocal from Glamorous Life, which is your voice and his, it triggers that. It's like, oh, that's what that was when I heard that.
Yeah, you can hear a little bit of Ohio in my voice, and the reason I say Ohio is because it's in that day and age, believe it or not, I think our and he's from Minnesota, our enunciation and diction was very different because of our education on the East Coast and the Middle East Coast. So people from certain places in California, if it was like Oakland or some other place, they had a twang. They had it was almost like they were from the South. It's weird to, and it's really hard to, especially like in more of a hooder, like more of a rougher areas, there would be that twang, like, yeah, more slangy voice. So with Prince and anyone from Minnesota during that time, Black, white, Puerto Rican, if they were all from Minnesota or Ohio or down that belly, it was something in our education system that was very different from the West Coast. I think, yeah, because enunciation, diction, the parents had it, everybody had it. And now today they would say we were coding. What is it? Code talking.
The migration patterns were also different. For the Midwest, you have Black people that were there a lot longer, going out to California, Oakland area. You have Black people coming from Texas, rather recent,
Right.
pretty recent.
Interesting.
And that's why the linguistic changes are like that, because the same thing happens here in Connecticut. It's like you have,
I think we also had better public education schools during those eras. I mean, like, it couldn't have been beaten. Wow. I just feel that we did.
Because Jill, now, Jill, are you right? Are you going to write a memoir?
I've been trying and I've been working on it, and I have too many different angles.
I just saw,
and Aisha was going to help. She was involved. It really is.
I'm just waiting to get the nudge.
I think the easiest part for me is talking about it. It's easier to talk and somebody else. So now what I started trying to do is talking into the microphone, and it's recording on Word.
And then someone easier. Edit it down. Yeah, like you that's just a story. Just the last few minutes.
We'll just have to sit and talk and like record it, because I have a lot of questions that I would ask Jill, particularly not just about her time with Prince, that's so fascinating, but her time at Motown, which, there are so many people, particularly from that 70s, early 80s era, are pretty much gone.
And God rest Robert Gordy Jr.'s soul. He passed away.
Yeah, she's one of the last few people.
The son,
she's definitely the last person left on the Square Biz song alive.
Oh, don't say it. They're spooking me, girl.
I'm sorry. Wait. I realized that the other night, like when I was like, at the end where you say everybody's name who's on the track. I'm like, Jill's the only person left.
That's so strange. Yeah, I was talking to somebody the other day about that song. Such a great song with Tina.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now we got things to do.
Yeah. So Jill, Aisha's waiting to help. I just saw when I saw her eyes sort of react about this memoir. I don't rob the world of that memoir.
You know what, though? Honestly, I look at it this way. I think a Tina Marie book will come first. I think when she helps me get that story and she tells me that, Jill will get into her groove of talking about herself. Because I think when you go to sit and write memoir about yourself and your life, you want to tell a story, but at the same time, it's hard because you don't know which angle do I come from this. And when you have such a multifaceted life as Jill has, it's like, where do I start?
Yeah. And I also think that the older I get, the more honest with myself I get. I also find that maybe 20 or 30 years ago, I might have blamed a lot of other. I'm able to see now the 360 of my decisions and like a chess game and what they were like. But there is a part of me that thinks that it's a timely thing for young women to know because it hasn't changed.
Right.
Women are still running around in their underwear, and it's not empowering because actually our rights have come and they're going. And so for me, it's kind of sad to see. It also was very sad to see when Prince started writing slave on his face after he kept me on a record deal for 7 years. And I had used the term slave to him when I wrote a letter saying, there's no reason to even be friends because, this is like, so you learn a lot about people, but you also, now that time has passed, I can see the weaknesses in other people, why they made the decisions they made. So sometimes it sounds like I'm always going to bat for him for things, but he needed it more than I did. He needed that existence more than I did. It's very clear to me. Otherwise, I would have had it.
Okay. Well, again, the book needs to come out. That's all I'm saying.
Mhm.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying we want a memoir, and I'm sure that our family here in the comment section will say the same thing. So,
and then I want to do a retreat with people who read it, and we all go to Canada and sit around the fire and make s'mores. And no, really, like, you know, that would be very fun.
Make it an event. Make it an event. So,
Well, when I look at
I mean,
the body
people
of
who have
work,
written their memoirs about their time with Prince have done that. So,
but when I look at the body of everything I hear, that I go, oh, I'm singing on that. Oh, I'm doing this. My main concern is, you know, when I, God forbid, or am no longer here, how many other things are that I have been on that are going to go uncredited, that I will not know about because I can't remember them off the top. There were so many. So that's always something that I hope, you know, people start thinking about our works. And also, it's very freaking important when you go in the studio with people to get it all corrected and in writing. I know that Prince had all these engineers, Susan Rogers, taking her bows, but it's like, girl, why didn't you keep the sheets with all our names on when we did what and who and what? Because that shit ain't around. Like, let's be for real. You had one job. One job, that's part of it. So for me, I'm a little bit bitter about that because I trusted that these people were kind of professional. And that part, not having the paperwork and stuff, you know, my house burnt down, so I have an excuse. But these other people, I'm not so sure about it. So yes, you're right. Sorry to go on.
But you know, the
go ahead, go ahead, Aisha.
You know about that though. The one thing that you can say, the Prince era might not have that documentation, but you do have it with the Motown era because they were very good at that. I have seen the sheets. I've seen all the sheets from Marvin Gaye's recordings. I've seen some from Tina's recordings. Your name is there. Yeah. They kept meticulous records. They still have them. Some of them got lost when they tore down one of those buildings in Detroit, but the fans collected the papers that were flying out and have circulated it. So it's
well, because the crazy, most obvious thing is, like, if Prince did a mix and let's say he had a bunch of different of us come in and sing at different times, the biggest question is, clearly you weren't in the room when he was mixing because you would have known who was actually singing the damn song. So for me, that's really, really a missed, you know, people, it's kind of what they omit in a story is what I start to go like, you ain't really talking about sitting around for all those mixes. All of those songs where you're really present during the mix, yeah, you know what happened. But it's the ones where he was there late at night, hammering away or whatever. And it's really important because there are people that, because of intellectual property laws and different things changing, that the estate is going to really need to deal with that.
Yeah. And the fans, and there are fans that are kind of confused too, because there are times where there are certain things that have over time have been attributed to other people, like, oh, Wendy, that's Wendy's voice at the end of Kiss talking. That's Jill. If you know Jill's inflection and everything, that's her at the end of the extended remix. But because people saw the video, whatever, the assumption was made, and so I think that that's going to be one of the, I think, more difficult things about telling the whole truth of his estate, because, you know, even people coming out saying, oh, I wrote this song, I wrote that song. And it's like, wait a second.
But there's some viable reason that there are some that they could have said that they were written, but he also was a record company. And there's things that I know were demos that were sent in, but didn't mean he wrote them. So, you know, there's that kind of neglect that went on. And I will say he really, you know, maybe was the best businessman for what he wanted to do, but the people that he hired clearly didn't know what the hell they were doing.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, great start already to our epic conversation. Just catching up here. Jen says hello. Hello,
hey, Jen.
Jen.
Hey, Jen.
Blue Rain says, hey, everybody. Wigmaniac, hello there. We actually mentioned you last week during the conversation. Let's see. Well, let me just go. I'm good. Tamara goes, yes, I'm definitely waiting on Jill's book. Wig Maniac says same. You know what's gonna happen one day, Joe? You're just gonna have your daughter on with us. You know that. Which is just
I'll bring Zuzu on. Yeah, for sure.
I'd love to have Zuzu on a conversation live with us, especially giving her perspective of Texas.
Oh yeah,
would really like to get that.
She's a great interview. I actually interviewed her before.
Yes, you did interview Zuzu. That's true.
All right, so Jill's and Jen says, Jill, I just know your book will be fabulous. Thank you. Hey,
thank you.
We're lobbying. We're gonna keep on lobbying. Here we go. So let's get to what's going on in your guys' country.
Oh my gosh, I see the other cat, guys. On a rooftop outside, looking through my window.
Now you have a stalker, okay?
Sitting there like
single
Damien, it was kind of like the Exorcist thing, like, Damien, why you do this to me? Remember his mother was laying there and then Damien had jumped in her and she's like, Damien, why you do this to my daughter and I? That's one of our little jokes between us. I don't know who has that joke, but it's kind of weird. I'll just look at her and go, Damien, why you do this to me?
Okay, well, let's get to a little bit more serious of a subject, and the attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband. What the heck is going on in your country? Like when the insurrection happened, yeah, I saw that people were after her. It hasn't stopped.
What kills me is that they are blaming her for stuff that they're not even sure what it is. They just don't like her. Okay, they just it's like she doesn't. They can't even articulate what it is. But the fact that someone went to her home, broke into her home, and attacked her husband with a hammer. I mean, I'm glad one of the charges is going to be attempted murder. Period. That better stick.
And elderly abuse.
An elder abuse. Yes, that better stick, because that's what it was. I was looking at just some of the nasty things on Twitter, but one of the things I came across was this whole, I blocked Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't understand why I'm seeing all of her tweets now.
Right.
But I saw the thing that said wait until tomorrow, and then someone else showed the video that she made talking about Nancy Pelosi, really derogatory, and it does make you wonder, what did she know, and was this planned? Because guess what? We know that she was part of the January 6th conversations and was giving people tours underground. So it makes you wonder, like, how many people knew about this. But the more disgusting part is the fact that they're making jokes about it. They're out there making jokes about this, and it's not funny.
Well, they're pretty despicable. I mean, we know that they're the scum of the earth. I mean, these people, Fox News, it's like, there's some guy named Jesse and he's doing things. Why is he going to walk? I mean, is he going to walk because he's so high profile and but they're going to make him go to jail because he's so high. He's trying to do the whole crime thing and that, these people. Meanwhile, that dude is such a cheater. He cheated on his wife, his first wife, that Jesse journalist from Fox, cheated on his wife, had an affair with a 28-year-old. It's unreal what people will suffer through with these despicable creatures. And what can we say? What happened to poor Paul Pelosi? I've made my little jokes before about him driving his Porsche. I'm like, dude, stay home. But the reality is that they've said that his wife normally has the whole, detail with her. So when she's not there, he doesn't really seem to have one. And what I don't like is that in this country, that the lewdness that they try to assert every time is lewd and crude. And, all of a sudden somebody, it's
Herschel Walker's son talking about, was it really a break-in or was it some kind of gay?
He's back on his bullshit. You know what? That little rotten kid, you're so confused, Christian or whatever, Christian, of all the names to give a devil.
Go to your daddy and his 80 million
of all the names to give your devil child, Christian. who was just crying like a couple weeks ago because his daddy had a bunch of abortions and daddy did this, and let's let you know, honey, you're not in the will maybe all the way. You're going to have to split with maybe 12 people and maybe more after daddy dies, because there's probably going to be so many more coming and contesting for that money. So save your coin, son.
You know, it's quite despicable about how, you know, never mind the fact that this is Nancy Pelosi's husband, but the fact that she gets, of all the members of Congress, the FBI has said that she has the most death threats of any member of Congress. The person right behind her is Ilhan Omar, and right behind Elon is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
All
and
women.
Elon was talking about
all women.
All women.
And also
Elon was talking about how they don't have, people think they have security. Like, no, regular rank and file members of Congress do not. The leadership does. Rank and file, they do not. They have to hire it on their own. And one of the concerns about this midterm election, and if we want to protect our politicians, we need to vote for Democrats, because they want to put into the budget security detail for members of Congress, and Republicans want to vote it down.
Well, here's my little thing, what I've been noticing. First of all, can Oxygen stop advertising on MSNBC? Their rank, bullshit, nasty, crime-driven shows. Do I need to, it's subliminal. Hollywood and people who have found a way to make money off of misery, because that's what you're doing. Crime shows and that really are about this one and she died. There's a lot of femicide going on. And that's the one thing you should pay attention to. All these shows, 2020, Dateline, all of them make money off of dead people. And they basically don't give any money to these people and their families. Look at how disgusting people became watching Jeffrey Dahmer. And
eroticizing that.
Right. Yeah. Eroticizing. And then we have things like, and these are the people that we live with on this planet, in our state. We have situations where there were 2 girls who went to Panama and, went missing, and it's femicide. We have it here in, all over, the indigenous women, Black women who've gone missing and can't find them. There is a war on killing and destroying women. And that's who men are in this day and age. A lot of them, I'd say 1 in 3. So when you're sitting somewhere, there's a possibility that one of them is a potential murderer who could kill you. It sounds crazy, but it seems to be that's all that people consume. So you put on a show, I'm watching the news, and Oxygen has to put on about, they found a leg in the lake. Can you just spare me? Hollywood too. How many movies is Brad Pitt going to do that look the same? But they think it's funny because you put Asian people and anime in it. But it's all murder. It's all violence. We actually regurgitate and then feed ourselves on regurgitated bullshit. And just the worst part of our society, that Hollywood, the news, the media, every social media caters to the worst people in our nation and in our civilization. Do you understand that? Because I'll tell you something. Have you ever gone to a party and there's no drinks, or it's, vegan or whatever? It weeds out the people who are going to stay. When it's good, wholesome fun or whatever, you'll see people leave because their spirits aren't right. This country's spirit hasn't been right for a long ass time, and it's getting worse. So I won't be dealing with that for too long. I have cut all my subscriptions down, and I watch what I want to watch now. Yeah. And it ain't, give me a break. Oxygen. It's like these old raggedy ass shows. You just go around. Let's do shows that educate people about finance, how to make it through, how to feed their kids. It's just disgusting to me.
Well, the other side of those shows, Jill, the sad part is that they don't show adequate or accurate representation of the women of color who are murdered. You have to go to TV One to see their Fatal Attraction and ATL Homicide, where they show they also show how people get justice in the struggles of sometimes the police not paying attention to the indigenous, the Black, Latino women that are attacked, and it's sad that it's relegated to that. So the assumption and it's pretty trite, really, that the assumption is that we only focus on these people, and that goes back to this whole attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband. When people talked badly about Melania Trump and those blood trees, they were all up in arms. It's like, oh my God, they're so horrible talking about the first lady like this. And oh my gosh, this is the worst thing that could ever happen, that Democrats could ever do. But then they're up there yucking it up and laughing on Fox about someone's husband having a skull fracture that required surgery.
Mm-hmm. And he could possibly die in a few months. We don't know how out of the woods Paul Pelosi is. He's 82 years old. I think it's disgusting. Yeah. Anytime you look at an elderly person. No.
I want to just jump in a bit. And Green-Eyed says, how did he get the address?
That's the part for me where it's like kind of like
because everybody knows she's in Pacific Heights. It's not that hard to drive around and see her detail or know it. And also they've been picketing her house for the last since she did that refrigerator thing where she said she had, when everybody saw that she had 2 Sub-Zero refrigerators. I mean,
remember
they picketed her on
public officials too. So they're not, it's not like they're celebrities that have they are celebrities for a different reason that have private addresses, but they're public officials. I know where all my delegation lives because their addresses are, you can find them on the website.
But the GOP picketers have been giving it out to them. They know where they are, you know?
Yeah. They're giving it out like they do the Hollywood maps of the stars.
So just going to the point of, both you're talking about, especially Jill, about them making money off of negativity. Tamara goes, making money off of misery. People are doing it every day and everywhere. It's so sad that this is our reality.
It is.
This gentleman, Freedom Fire, says, that man was not a stranger. It was Mr. Pelosi's friend. Listen to the 9/11 call.
Excuse me, Freedom Fighter.
Okay, this one is about this close to calling us the N-word. Can you block?
I will say this. Yeah, I will say
this is one of those Twitter hats.
Yeah, this is an idiot. These people have lack of cognition and they're they're never mind. Just get rid of them. Yeah. Sorry, I'm not going to say that word anymore.
I think no matter what side of the political fence you're on, you can't say nothing.
Well, here's the thing. These people don't even think 3 steps forward. There have been people who have called 911 and been in a situation as a hostage in a situation. And the whole time, are we going to hold them to what they're saying in the middle of like, no, you're right. Absolutely, guy. I mean, my mom was assaulted by 2 men. Would I hold her for whatever she had to do to survive and say, well, you said you were really excited to see them and it was so great. Well, when 2 people hold knives to your throat, what are you going to say? So these people don't think 1 step ahead. It's amazing that they wake up every fucking day with that little pea brain. It's amazing that if a gnat hits them in the head, that they just don't shut the fuck down.
I've seen stories of people who, for survival,
stupid.
For survival, I saw this one where this young lady had been kidnapped, and she told the guy who kidnapped her that she loved him.
Absolutely, that's what you do. You do what you got to do.
Disarm him, and he got real comfortable with her, and she was able to escape. People do what they need to do to survive.
That's what happened to the girl who was living with that man, and he abducted her. The young Mormon girl. Yeah. How many years was she there? Made to have
9 years.
Too? Yeah. I mean, after a while, listen, bitch, y'all, these people with their black and white absolutes, it is such an American concept. It is the way Americans think, well, I want mine now. They are Veruca Salt 100 times over. They are, this is what it said here. And I can't believe how damn dumb the women are. These women, I have been seeing white wine being served all over the place on Twitter today, all over the place, just white wine, even from the men. It was like, yo, I mean, they're just dumb. The fact that anybody would have ever thought that they were above us is absolutely laughable.
Yeah.
Laughable. These
Yeah.
people are dumb as like a box of rocks.
And we're going to see more people like Freedom Fighter come on here probably tonight, because we posted on Twitter that this is here, and those algorithms have changed. And so they're out
Bring
there
them. I'm
looking.
built for it.
They're out there looking.
All right.
As NW says, I'm built for this. But I can't sing what they said, but
Okay. Well, again, Twitter is coming up, family. Just hold on. We're going to get to it. So let's get on to political polling in the midterms. Violence toward poll workers in 2020, leaving a shortage of poll workers. So a number of different conversation topics there. Where do you want to land? Where do you want to go to first? Or
I want to tell Democrats to stop freaking out, because I've been watching. Oh, the polls say this, the polls say this, the polls say that Republicans are likely to take back the House. Okay, let me tell you something about polling in statistics very quick. First of all, you need to know how many people they surveyed or polled. Okay, most of the time they're polling way under 100 people. And then you also need to find out how many of those people that they polled are registered Republicans or Republican-leaning independents versus how many are Democrats or Democratic-leaning independents. Because if they'd have 70 Republicans and leaning independents, then of course it's going to look like the Republicans are going to sweep, because they've got 70 Republicans out of 100 people, saying that they're going to vote for Republican. If the counter was true and they had 70 Democrats, it would look like the Democrats were going to win. The bottom line is that it's going to be about turnout, and I don't believe that there are any true independents. I honestly don't. I don't believe that there are any truly undecided voters. It's going to be a matter of who gets to the polls. And that's why for Georgia, for example, that's why Kemp is so petrified, because Stacey Abrams registered 1 million more voters in the last year and a half. And so that is something that scares them. So when it comes to the whole thing about polling, take them with a grain of salt, because honestly, we can sit here right now and ask everyone here, for example, go back to the other thing, if Jill thinks she should write her book. We already saw what people think, but in her gut, she might feel like, I don't want to do this right now. But
yeah, I think polls are nonsense. I think the poll business has changed. I think there are people who are now on TV trying to validate what they do, because I honestly, first of all, can't even figure out who they would get who would trust talking to them. When my phone rings, I don't answer it. I'm not going to answer it and give you my information and tell you who I'm going to vote for. Do I know who you are on the other side of the phone or online? Why would I do that? Like, honestly, why would I do that? The only people they're polling are old people in like retirement homes, or, it's like, who answers their phones like that? Yeah. I don't know. We've told all of our grandparents, our in-laws, everybody, don't respond. This is a scam. This is, so for me, the poll industry, it's now about lying and playing like a game with it. Like, you want everybody to think we're doing really well, but we're not doing really well, because if we say we're not doing really well, then it means more of us will show up to defend that place. And it's happening on the other side with the Republicans too, who are supposedly so ahead of it. I've seen one dude was begging for money, saying they're beating me and I don't know what I'm going to do with some California, whatever. But you know what? It's like, it's a game. Yeah. And, it's like, they gonna have to sink or swim. That's it.
Well, the devil's in the details.
I don't believe it.
The devil's in the details. Like, everybody quotes the Quinnipiac polls. Quinnipiac's about 7 minutes down the road from me. And a couple of years ago, I actually interviewed the person who is over that polling department. And one of the things that, he shared with me was that, hey, it really just depends. When you look at our polls, they just look at the first part of it, the actual reporting, but they don't go and do the deep dive into what are the demographics of the people. So I had access to, I mean, you can go on their website and look and get access to all of that information and
Right.
see how many people are registered Republicans versus how many of them are likely voters.
Yeah.
And you can see how many men, how many women, you can see the racial demographics, income demographics. That tells the bigger story. And just the little things you see that you capture in these one little graph things doesn't tell everything.
And I wouldn't give my personal information online or on the phone to anybody anyway these days. Y'all just wait and see who voted for who.
Yeah.
Because
And the other-
I don't even see the point of the polls anymore. Just because they need to know who's coming out and who isn't.
Yeah.
You know, no, ain't nobody trying to like sit up and talk to a volunteer that we don't know in a few years won't go out and like, you know, start robbing your house.
Yeah,
Or,
and the other thing
or,
too is that
or taking your identity. Fuck off, people.
they use landline phones. How
Yeah,
many
exactly.
people now have landline phones
Not me.
to poll? So they're polling older people who tend to be more conservative.
They're older than me. People who have landlines are older than me and have the time to sit up there and answer those damn questions.
I mean,
Nobody else
remember,
got the time for it.
and remember, they had Barack Obama losing by a landslide.
They
He
sure did.
crushed John McCain, and it was like after bat after bat after bat after bat. So guess what? They also had Hillary Clinton winning by a landslide, and guess what? She got creamed. So it really it's really, you know, you can't.
Also, you know, people have such a lack of a work ethic. I'll say, you know, you give somebody a stack of things and they come back and say, oh yeah, I did all of this. And then you get in your work. I don't know if you guys have ever hired anybody who's been like an intern or something, and you go in and go,
yeah,
they didn't do shit. What the fuck? You just give me, you know, yes people that go, yes, I called all 500 people and this is what they all said. You know, there's a lot of stuff that goes on with different variables of the mindset of the American person at this point. I mean, honestly, it ain't good. None of it is like, you know, the little books that they thought it was.
And you know, the thing that that we should pay more attention to is the second part of this topic, which is the violence toward the poll workers. We're having a shortage now because people are afraid. They don't want to be outed like what Trump did with the mother and daughter in Georgia, and have their people go after them at work, people go after them online, show up to their houses. They don't get paid a whole lot. It's a one day job.
I'll do it. I wish somebody would try that with me. I'm always ready for the action.
And now, you know what? It's sad though that in some of these states that they're like, okay, these poll workers not even poll workers, these quote unquote poll watchers, which are really just intimidation. You know,
I mean, some of them look like they've got suicide vests on, right? There was a few that I'm like, this guy looks like he's a suicide bomber showing up. I don't know what that artillery is, but the fact is they're breaking laws because they are there and they're not supposed to be by the polls like that. Yep. And, you know, frankly, I'll tell you what I think, since they're cutting it close with their laws, like, oh, we're going to just keep our distance 100 feet or 300 feet away, right? You know what those poll places should do? Go out, buy a bunch of tall ass green fig trees and cicadas and just create a line so they can't stand around.
But you know why they're able to do that even at the 100 feet or whatever? Because they took out that provision in the Voting Rights Act when they
That's okay. You follow my ass back to my car or while I'm voting. This may be the last voting session you've ever seen.
When they gutted that
will be for real.
Oh my gosh, that just
because people are angry, and I got to tell you guys something. Pretty soon, you know, it's the silent people that these people better watch out for, because I come from believe it or not, I have a mouthy side of the family, and then there were some silent ones. Like my mom was a silent one. Silent ones were the scariest. You know, when my mom threw a frying pan at me once, I knew I had messed up real bad. I was like, I didn't even see it coming. I dodged it. But, you know, here's my point. When you push people too hard, and they're pushing people, we had our fill of Kanye, of everything this past week. And then Paul Pelosi, boom on the top of it. And Marjorie Two Toes going out there talking about, listen and wait for
I call her
tomorrow.
moisture-free Marjorie.
Marjorie Two Toes Green.
Moisture-free Marjorie.
Good God. Those toes look like hooks.
Okay.
That is a very dry woman. I'm sorry. From the hair
She
to
is
the
dry.
skin, to the feet.
And
She's
look, but
dry.
wait, no, but what's so funny is I know that it got to her because she's been trying. She's been trying to like put a little lip gloss and try to fix
because
up.
she's going through a divorce. She wants to be attracted to somebody. She knows she can't get anybody,
Yeah, but nobody wanted a free Marjorie. They were okay when they knew that, that stuff went home.
Well, that's the problem, right? Like no one really
ain't nobody
wants
trying
her.
to keep you Marjorie.
Yeah.
Damn.
I'm gonna move this along because it's sliding down a slope real
That's
quick.
true.
So let me but I don't know if we're gonna get back up the slope because Mr. Musk has got his Twitter and he's chopping away.
Mosquitoes.
500% increase in racist comments on Twitter in just one day. 500% increase.
Yeah.
I have been called the N-word so many times. I'm starting to think it's my middle name. For work, I work for a climate justice organization, and on Twitter, just doing my normal stuff, retweeting some information, and someone called me a climate crisis actor. These psychopathic people, it's like, and what bothered me is that, when somebody said something to me on my personal account, the work account, I didn't, I just blocked, kept going. On my personal account, I was like, you really took time out of your day to sit and like search. I mean, really? You just sat there and searched for all the Black people that you could find so you could just go and just call them that. And guess what? The algorithms, they did something with the algorithms. As soon as he took over, he fired all the people that monitor these things and that have been able to kind of gatekeep. And then they did something with the algorithms, because I see all day, I've been seeing posts on my feed by Marjorie Taylor Greene, who I have blocked, by Donald Trump Jr., Kyle Rittenhouse, and the list goes on. Like, hey, where are the people that I follow? And it is so horrific, because I mean, I've seen post after post after post of people. One post where someone just went and called out every kind of slur that they could possibly offend every person on this earth with, except for wealthy white evangelical men.
It's so weird. They've actually made it not. It actually has diffused it. It's not. It means nothing now. It's so funny because being called the N-word by these people now, it means nothing. It's like deaf to it. That's what they get their jollies off about it. In my mind, I find it to be really like, wow, there's just a lot of you. I would never think that there aren't any more than what they already are. That's what our ancestors endured. So I'm willing to go there too. I can take that. We can take it.
Yeah.
It's just till how long? And loose lips sink ships. Ain't nobody going to be talking about what they want to do to these people. We have moved a lot of conversation offline.
Yeah.
Elon Musk there's only 250 million people on Twitter who are like registered. And that's kind of low when you look at like TikTok has 1 billion.
Yeah.
It just, what he's going to do is dismantle all the people who make money, monetize off of it. And they're going to be
already pulled out.
And they're all going to be leftists, basically the Democrats.
So it's going to end up like Truth Social, though, to be honest. Think about it, because these vile people get their life from being able to talk smack to quote unquote own the libs. But the problem, the reason that they were so eager to get back on Twitter was because on Truth Social, they couldn't aggravate anybody.
But that's the thing, is we can't be aggravated. You can't be aggravated by their nonsense. It's like, if you want to have an intelligent takedown, that's better. But the N word is a little passe, if you ask me. It's just passe. It means nothing. We've already got that number on them. Try to put together a few more words. I mean, it's so interesting. Guys, I'm going to just recommend this very quickly. Rachel Maddow has a podcast right now, and it's called Ultra. I cannot recommend more than to go and listen to the first 4 episodes that she has up right now. There'll be more. Yeah. But it'll give you an indicator that all that we're going through right now is not the first time. And having a weak, impotent AG who moved very slowly, they went through that too. In fact, we have had many senators who were involved with, at that time, getting paid by Hitler, which is very funny, and passing around millions and millions of documents full of propaganda. And with that, you know, that's what happened. Please watch it, listen to it. It will change your mind on how to respond to them, because basically all it's going to tell you is that these people spring from a very deep well of people who've been grinning in our families' faces for years, but what they were talking about at home, they never gave up the plan. And all Russia did was come in and take Hitler's plan, because to deal with replacement theory and have babies or get replaced, all of that, that's Hitler. He did that. That's exact. And I have a few other blogs that are still, you know, David Duke endorsed, all of this stuff where they are still talking about it. And it is permeating like a stench. So when, you know, now we know that we are sitting here. It's like growing up in Ohio in the 60s, and they used to call certain people names and immigrants and the Jewish people different horrible things. But you know when you're walking on that part of town. So when you know, be prepared and make sure you got your tools to go back at them on.
Yeah. And you know, I have to say this one thing, you know, for me, it was kind of like, okay, just block, because the conversation, the internal conversation is, do I really want to be here? I have been pulling back for the last couple of weeks anyway, because I can feel the toxicity. And now it's just kind of like, it's almost to the point where it's so ridiculous that, like, I really did think about like leaving, and I'm like, why?
Yeah. Why would you let it, you know,
why?
push
Because
you
it's
out?
like, is that all? Is that the worst that you can dish out? It's like, I've heard that before.
So let me ask then a few things. Interesting. The founder of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, has launched his own platform.
Yeah.
Was done within a few days of Mr.
He's got a wait list already for people to try out the beta site.
What is it? What's it called?
Blue Sky?
Yes, okay. I think it's called Blue Sky. Question then. Should social media platforms have monitored content, or should it be free speech?
Monitored,
and I think that the government should regulate. There should
all
be
of them.
Governmental regulations,
like they did with television,
like they do with radio. The FCC needs to monitor these. If these sites, because remember, these sites don't operate so much as businesses. That was the whole thing with Facebook. Remember, Facebook wanted to call itself a news entity. So if you're going to be considered, if you want to be a news entity and like that, then you need to have.
But they don't even regulate that, because Fox never got regulated, because they don't call themselves news. They call themselves entertainment.
Right.
Our country is a mess.
They monitor their cursing and things like that, but not the vile things that they say. But I honestly, I think that, you know,
I can't believe they let the sale go through with somebody who had conversations with a foreign leader who is trying to kill us all. Okay. I personally don't think they understand some of the laws. And now I'm starting to think, like, why were the Rosenbergs killed? That seems to be the worst thing they ever did. How awful. There was no reason that the Rosenbergs should have been killed. Or all the other people who were murdered and killed for espionage. They weren't. We've got them sitting right out here. So this is what I've always been saying. You know, I've tried to deal with Merrick Garland, but this dude is like, he's not the one. I know people are like, he's doing everything. It's like, bitch, you need to be fucking like, I don't know, bozo. Plates, legs, everything's got to be working like a fucking machine. He's just impotent. He is just not up to the job. This job is big. And if it doesn't kill him, it's like, dude, you need a force. You haven't even fired the people who used to work with Trump. Neither did Biden. It's like, get rid of them. Stop this whole like chummy chum thing. You know what chum is? Chum is stuff you give to fish out in the ocean.
So
this whole
let me just get this in. Let me get this in. Ghost Flu says always monitor. Too many people no longer understand the difference between free speech versus giving an opinion
it's not
on
that.
something they know nothing about.
No, there's some crazy stuff that's on.
Being able to say what you want to say about something.
It's not about just saying,
that's
guys.
free speech.
It's what people post. People don't want the jobs. They have seen murders. They have seen rapes. They have seen babies, horrible things. In fact, that's something no one's really talking about. The monitors who do monitor to try to keep that from circulating
it's
in
a difficult job. I've seen
they have
being
had people who have committed suicide. The highest suicide ratings are in that job at Twitter and Facebook, because there are some sick motherfuckers in America and across the world. Now, aside from the fact of just a normal person would say, hey, maybe we should get the police in on this. And I don't know, you have a Starlink, bitch. Why don't you try to help us find out where these motherfuckers are so we can send somebody over to take care of what they just did? But see, Elon Musk he's not useful to a good cause. He's useless. He's a buffoon. And that's it. People want to sing his praises. And by the way, his car is basically a German car. Everything in it is German.
And they're ugly.
Okay. Well, the small one actually rides very well. I don't like the big cockroach looking one, but the little one is nice.
But here's the thing.
But he gonna lose that too, because he never finishes. Somebody else is always cleaning up Elon's mess.
But here's the other thing that people don't get. And all these people talk about free speech, free speech, free speech. Guess what? You actually do not have free speech. Free speech means that you can say whatever you want with no consequences. We have consequences. Free speech does not mean free of consequences. So if somebody decides that they're going to fire you behind some dumbass shit that you said on Twitter, they have every right to, because guess what? You same people are also the at will worker people. Right,
which for all of
right
our
to work people.
Except one
so,
state,
but want to cry when you get fired because of some stuff that you said on Twitter. But let's be very clear: the First Amendment was written for people to be able to worship as they want, for the press to be able to report things without retaliation, and for people to be able to say something about the government without the government retaliating. That is what is written. The law, the amendment has been applied to other things, but there are things that we know we can't do. For example, you cannot. The reason that they should be going after Donald Trump harder is because you cannot. There are Supreme Court decisions. You cannot incite a riot using rhetoric.
Right.
Charles
Manson went to jail for inciting. Charles Manson went to prison for incitement. He never murdered one person. So tell me why Donald Trump is different.
Right. And so they use that with people in this who were civil rights workers, trying to blame them for riots that happened because it was their rhetoric, whatever. And people have gone to jail for that. So you can't just say whatever it is you want to say and not face any kind of judgment or consequence or whatever. It's like I'm always amazed at the arrogance of particularly white men who think that they own the country, so I can do whatever the hell I want. This is my country. Bitch, no, it's not. We all live here. We all have to share this place. You don't own it, and you don't own it. And it's always the people who are probably the most disenfranchised of their group who feel like they have the most control. You take like I look at like Donald Trump Jr., for example. What kind of power does he have in his life? Absolutely none. And that's why he talks the smack that he does.
Denture power? I don't know.
It's because it's like,
those are not people's
it's like,
teeth. Those are bought, and I don't know where they found them.
You know where he gets,
also the whole fucking family has them.
Like James said, cocaine is a hell of a drug. That's where he gets that from.
Like those teeth look like they would just have a life of their own and be chattering somewhere on Halloween.
But I mean, Musk buying Twitter is, think about it. He buys Twitter. What's his name wants to buy Parler, and the other idiot has Live Social. So,
well, they're going to just burn us out with them all, because that's what's going to happen. It's going to just be like, I don't feel like going on anything today, and we'll find another way to, maybe it's time is up. You know what I'm saying? I mean, what's so interesting though is never mistake how manipulative these religious freaks are, because the only reason that they make themselves a religion. Don't forget that Kris Jenner wanted to make herself a religion because the bitch didn't want to pay taxes, and had a little church out there in Calabasas. People do not go to Jesus for the right reasons. They exploit the hell out of him and crucify him all over again, basically. They become, with the reason they try to do that papal thing or pastor thing and all of that shit, is because there's a lot of perks in America if you pretend to be a Christian and if you walk around like a big hypocrite. There are people who make TV shows out of it. We're Christian. Look at that record company I talk about, those Christians singing, corrupt as hell. Watch the video on Netflix. You will see. The reality is, when you have the religious thing, you can also claim that, well, we're just saying something. It's our religion, because of your religious right to freedom. And then they piggyback on top of free speech with that as well. So that's the problem.
One thing though, this is not going to last very long, the way that Twitter is in chaos right now. And the reason is because, remember, Elon Musk had to borrow quite a lot of money from banks. And when those sponsors start pulling out, like GM was a big deal, a big advertising deal. When others start to follow because the climate is so disturbing and they see people start to drop off, his financiers are going to come to him and be like, hey, you need to clean up your act.
He doesn't listen.
So let me ask both. If Twitter goes down the path that many feel it's going to, will either of you still be on Twitter within the next 6 months?
No.
I probably will take my time and bow out a little bit. It depends on how good the fights are. I feel like going and having a real smash.
Jill Jones answer. That is such a Jill Jones answer.
Well, you know what? I would be up for it if it was people coming at me and I had to deal with that and just deal with it. What I cannot deal with is the news feed is seeing a whole bunch of stuff of people that I don't even follow just showing up, and it's just like Republican. It's like, wait, where are the people that I follow? Where's my WNBA news?
If it hurts Elon Musk, then I would definitely walk away. If there was a plan and we all did it like on a day, I'd do it. Let him live with these like deranged people, because I pay for my account. I heard he was going to make people pay anyway. I pay for mine, so I actually stopped paying the other day because, I don't see the perks anymore just that fast. So before I could see like all the news stuff that I like, and I would get it. Now I don't really care. But if he's smart, he will, move down that where some people can have those options and a little bit more control over things. But he really needs to get on the good foot and come to the right side. And he might have to, because the people that he's romancing are pretty gross.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I have to do it for my job.
Into like South Africa was, by the way. All this whole Nancy Pelosi thing shows us, and it's kind of unfortunate that in America, rich people are going to have to cough up that money to pay for their security. And the rest of us are just fucked. because the reality is it'll be like South Africa. And I don't know if any of you have ever been there. It's beautiful, but ain't nobody trying to be in South Africa, because if you watch that TLC show where she did that trade in the with the marriage thing, was like, yo, America is the only one country where it hasn't been a class system, but billionaires made sure to come here and make sure it now is a class system, no different than England, no different than Germany or Deutsch or Denmark or anywhere else, which means it's harder for you to leg up to get anywhere else here. And that's the saddest part of all about America, because with that concept, the American dream, I mean, shit, are we going to have like a peer? We don't, it's like, oh, they're from the Bush family and they're from the Musks and they're from the, that's what this is. And you will not leg up. Oh, they let the old Jay-Z and Beyonce through, but we were not going to let anybody else. The fact is, what's happening in America is proof that we never left England. England came here and took over. It's really proof that we never defied the crown. The crown just created a different fringe and a different faction. The Whig party actually won. I told you I was related to that president who died. That bitch died.
Right.
Couldn't even cut it. What was he? The 8th president, Harrison.
Okay.
He caught a flu and died. And he is the reason why we are set up the way we're set up with how our vice presidency works, because they hadn't had that before. When that happened after a month in office, was like, what are we going to do?
All right.
So yeah,
we're gonna move on. Ghost Fu says nothing beautiful about South Africa anymore. Even going camping is more dangerous than going to your local garage in the United States.
that's true. I've heard that now. Most people don't want to be there. I mean, what was the guy with no legs who killed his girlfriend, and the way his house was boarded up anywhere? It was terrible.
But though, it's isn't it apropos of everything with Elon Musk letting Twitter go the way it does? It's like he's right at home.
Because it's easier for them to steal.
He's used to it.
It's easier for them to always that be the main complaint of crime. Yeah. Well, billionaires are making sure that's what it is. Yeah. They are. Corporate billionaires are making sure they've laid off security people for their parking lots. There's tons of it. Look and you will find. Seek and you will find, and see what billionaires, how they've been profiting during this inflation.
Yeah,
it's disgusting.
And expect there to be more firings at Twitter too, because he is not done. He is not done. When he said he was going to lay off 75% of the staff, he meant it.
Yeah.
The only people he's going to keep are probably the actual IT engineers, because he doesn't have any clue how to write code.
That's true. Right. He doesn't.
Let's move on. Aisha went to see a movie today called Till.
I did.
Let's hear about it and give us a little background on it.
Okay. So when I first heard about the Emmett Till story, I was 12. And in 2005, when I was busy being a professor, I went and presented at the 50th anniversary Emmett Till conference in Alabama, but we went to Mississippi. So I've gotten to see the courthouse, the barn where he was tortured, and just other sites where they found him. And I met a documentary filmmaker, Keith Beauchamp, who did a documentary with Mrs. Till, with Emmett's mother, and she made him promise that he would bring it to the screen and make sure that story got told. And so we stayed in touch. And in 2015, he made this announcement, and I got to interview him about them making the film. And Whoopi Goldberg had just signed on to be a producer in the film. And he shared some things with me about the script and that in the interview. And so seeing it today, it was kind of like everything came full circle. It was a really well acted movie. The cinematography was beautiful. You know the story. So it's not like there's anything new that you find out, at least from my perspective, because I've done so much research. There wasn't anything new. It was kind of like, how are they going to do this? But I think the way that it was told, his mother is the center of it. They were right. There's no violence on any Black bodies. I mean, you don't see what happened to him. You do see the aftermath. They did recreate his body. But you also get the human part of it that I think gets lost in the story, that this really was a 14-year-old boy. So you get to see a 14-year-old boy be just a 14-year-old boy. You learn what his favorite songs were. He jokes with his mother. But at the end, you also aren't left with that heavy feeling like this is really sad. It's a sad story, but it goes back to just a mother who loved her son, and you see that in her, and it was a really, really well done film.
Who played the mother?
Her name is Danielle Deadweiler. Mm-hmm. She's in a few other things, but this was her first starring role, and I have to say she did a beautiful job. Now, earlier this year, Will Smith and Jay-Z produced a TV version that was a 3-part miniseries over 2 hours a night for 3 nights. And I have to say, my daughter and I watched that, and we thought that one went on like 2 hours too long. This is just the right length. It's a 2-hour, 11-minute film. And it really is just a snapshot of that moment in time. So you get, when it opens up, it's the day before he goes to get on the train. So there isn't, things kind of, the pace it's well paced. And there were some questions, there's certain scenes in there that I actually, it kind of opened my eyes. For one, there was this conversation between Medgar Evers' wife, Merle Evers, and Emmett Till's mother. And she said, I'm always living in fear until Medgar comes home at night. And Emmett Till's mother said, I didn't raise him with that kind of fear. So he didn't have it when he came down here. And you have to sit and think about that for a minute. You're like, okay, so that's why, there's this concept of, well, why didn't he do? Well, because he didn't have that fear. And then another question I'd always wondered was, how did she handle her uncle? When there's a scene in the film where she sees that her uncle had a shotgun in the house when they had come to get Emmett, and she just confronted him. You had a gun. Why didn't you do anything? And it just, the disturbing part was like, it was either my family or him. And it was kind of like, wow.
But they also, what's really interesting is that they, in this thing, they have shown Black people who engaged in the lynching.
Yes, because
remember, we had a lot of Aunt Janes and Uncle Ruckuses.
Yeah.
And they're there because it's always to deflect. Like, I ain't going to have them starting to lynch us all here. Yeah. So that's the real sick part of it.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that Keith Beauchamp found, because he had done this documentary with Emmett's mother, and he had found some of the people who were witnesses. Because of his research, that's why they did the 2007 Emmett Till Act to reopen the old civil rights cases. He found a warrant that the FBI had and that the state of Mississippi had for Carolyn Bryant, for the woman, and that it has never been served.
And she's in hospice now. They said begging for forgiveness. Any day she could go.
She can go on. It was just a really moving thing, but I didn't come out of it boohoo crying and sad as I did when I watched the documentary with his mother telling the story, which was different. But it was just a beautiful movie. I read her book too, which is called Death of Innocence. It was her memoir. And so some of the conversations there I remembered from reading that. Like, gosh, I read that in 2004, 2003. So it was a really good movie. I encourage people to see it. I was really upset probably like 3-4 months ago when Black Twitter's like, oh, I don't want to see racial violence porn. It's like, and me already knowing how this was going to happen, because I did that interview before. It's kind of like, You don't know what you're talking about. Here we are, Black people. We want our stories told. We're always saying we want Hollywood to tell our stories. But then when it gets told, it's like, oh, we didn't want that one. Well, this is a story that needs to be told. If not for anything other than just young children to see, because they don't read the way that they used to. And how else are you going to know history? Remember, the way that they're doing history books these days in this country, they've taken that. It was barely a line in most history books. They've taken it out. You live in Texas, you live in the South, Florida, wherever, please. It's not even in the books.
All right. So thank you for sharing that. And Aisha giving a great movie review. And the star of the movie, Daniel Deadweiler, Jalen Hall plays Emmett Till.
He did a fantastic job, I have to say. That was probably the part, his acting for me was probably the part that hit me the most, because he reminded me so much of my nephew. And I was like,
Frankie Faison, John Carthan, a lady named Haley Bennett played Carolyn Bryant. Jamie Renner, Whoopi Goldberg plays Alma Carthan. So various. I don't know how any of these names except one or two, like Whoopi Goldberg and maybe one or two.
And Sean Patrick Thomas.
And Sean Patrick Thomas. I know that name, but all this. So it sounds like a good movie to see. If you're gonna go see the second Wakanda movie, you should also go see this movie.
Yeah, and I'll tell you something. When I was there and I was watching the previews, the Wakanda film preview was one of the previews, and I have to say, it looked so much better in that preview than the ones I've seen on TV.
All right, so we're going to end off our conversation tonight about an initiative I didn't know about till Jill brought it up in our Twitter feed today, the Cancer Moonshot Initiative. So Jill, do tell us about this.
So Jill Biden, our first lady, clearly has been impacted by cancer in her family. We know that President Biden's son, Beau, had, brain cancer. Jill Biden mentioned that her friends, 3 or 4 of them were all diagnosed with breast cancer in 1 year at the same time, and 3 survived and 1 didn't. And that's the one that led her to really put a focus on this. So she put together a bunch of oncologists and different cancer survivors, people who are living with it, people who've lost people. And Mary J. Blige was a guest on it because she spoke about how she'd lost so many people in her family and felt like if there had been a campaign or initiative of some sort, maybe her aunts and relatives and different women in her family would have gone and gotten checked. And the whole impetus of this is to push for early detection. And, I think it's so incredible because my mother died from cancer. So I will say that and my Uncle Earl, it's something that's definitely, when you meet people who it's been in their family, you understand it's heartbreaking what the loss, that everything you lose and what you see and what you have to go through when last images of people, it's brutal. But I think that the main thing is what's wonderful is it's a campaign that is trying to make cancer something that, because a lot of people in the Black community barely wanted a COVID shot, let alone even going. We have a lot of superstitions. Even I myself have had them.
And,
I just go ahead.
It's really it's also a challenge too, because you go to a doctor sometimes, particularly people of color, you go to a doctor for one thing and they're like, oh, I'm going to look at this. And you're like, no, this is the problem. Like my brother passed away last year from cancer. And by the time that he had other issues with his kidneys. So they've been focusing on that. And he was complaining about stomach issues. By the time that they got to it, it was like terminal.
But it's so hard here too, because the one thing that we don't have is proper health care and jobs. And when your job has to be tied to, when your health care has to be tied to your job, it's pretty disgusting. And, heartless Americans don't seem to care. They haven't cared for God most of our lives. But right now, and actually after COVID, Dr. Vibe, Aisha, people don't care who they lose. They don't care to, be a part of the collective to make things better. It's like, that's disturbing to me. I don't like people like that. I'm a team player. I try to be. If I wasn't, I wouldn't have been, made some of the best records in the fucking lifetime that I've had. So, so really seriously, it's not a bad thing to sometimes be a team player. It's not all about you. But I love that they want to work with oncologists and give funding to try to find cures for this dreaded, horrible demon disease. It's just.
Well, I want to jump in here too for a few reasons. First of all, I'm going to say for all the men and those who love men out there, go get prostate cancer checked, please. Especially Black men. Especially Black men. If you're a Black man and you are over 40 years old and you haven't had a check for prostate cancer, you're robbing yourself and your loved ones. Yeah. So I just want to put it out there. Next up, and we're a few days away from Movember, which is held every year in regards to men and
you growing a beard.
I haven't yet, but you may push me to this. If you
grow one, I'll grow one.
Shit.
Sorry, I will not be joining you all on that.
Okay, but yeah. So for me, cancer's affected my family. My dad is a prostate cancer survivor. So, blessed I live in a country. I see my doctor every 3 months.
Wow, you are blessed because we're not here. Americans aren't blessed.
So the thing is, he knows all the health challenges my father has had. So any signs in me of those past challenges, he is on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm actually
he is on it. So So if you're a man you watch this, or you have men that you love, that are over 40 years old, encourage them, push them, saying, "It don't play, family."
I mean, when I was living abroad, like in England and stuff, we had doctors that, would every year you get your moles checked, even in your hair. Like they look in your scalp, you do these really wonderful physicals. So it was always strange to me how barbaric America was with its healthcare system. Like, I actually think they want people to kick off, there's more for the neighbor next door, because after how COVID showed how people are, they're scavengers, the people here. That people drop dead. That's mine. Ooh. It's a horrible thing. And that's why I think America has the karma that it has.
Yeah. And it's, people, for whatever reason in this country, hate the idea of socialized medicine. But, I'm going through some health issues right now. And to have an insurance company say, no, you can't get that fixed, it's kind of like, what? So I just let it get
worse. They're treating you like a car as opposed to
it's
human
like,
being.
So what? It gets, I just let it get worse.
I've had more shit on my car fixed than what the insurance will allow, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm actually going to go get screened in 2 weeks. So please, everyone out there, get checked out. And if something hurts, listen to it. I lost a friend very close friend from brain cancer. And it's like, she talked about having headaches from the time we were 15. She died when we were 35.
Wow. So Jen is saying it. Also, great point to get a colonoscopy. So many don't. That's
I know. I have to get mine. I haven't done it.
Yep. So I have to get mine also. So very important, people. Please don't just live for yourself. There's others that need you here also.
Yeah.
And I gotta say,
everybody thinks if they do all this natural care stuff and all this stuff, and it's not just that. If I always kind of mention, like, the Deepak Chopra has a Eastern medicine facility here, as well as it has regular oncologists, all this kind of stuff, and they work together in tandem. when you can work together with everything that's been discovered on this planet, then it works. But to sit up and, be out in the garden eating like the shrubbery and think that you're going to like cure yourself, it's just not. That's,
Yeah. I always keep up on these things, especially because my hematologist is actually an oncologist as well. And so when I go to get, if I need a blood transfusion or if I go to get iron infusions, I sit in the treatment center with people getting chemotherapy. And it's to watch. It's something, it really is humbling to watch that. And it stays with you. You have to go and get screened because it's not something you want to do. There are people that I've seen there, and then I go back a couple of months later and they're not there, and they're never coming back.
The crazy thing about America is, and I've never felt anywhere else the same way about my life, but here I always feel like we're buying time. I feel like when I go and I get a pill, I just bought a little bit more time here. I don't think it's a healthy country. I don't think it's mentally healthy. And I don't think that the people are healthy on many, many levels. I think it's all a bunch of bullshit. So for me to see Jill Biden and Joe Biden be so modern and moving forward because they've actually suffered through that, I'm definitely getting more people out there. But the one hitch that they're not really putting into is people don't go and get checked because they haven't had insurance and they're unfamiliar with doctors, and it's spooky and it's scary. And it's because for so long, Black people couldn't even vote, which you're trying to do now. And sitting back there using homemade concoctions. That's why. And it trickles down, and it's generational of fear of the doctor. Look at Prince. He had generational fear. These are comments of like, oh, when you go to the doctor, bad news, because we all had to wait so damn long to get there.
And they don't make it easy either, because it's like, if you want, let me tell you, if you want to go get
but they'll sure give you
pills. If you want to go get a colonoscopy to get screened for some kind of colon cancer, which I have one in 2 weeks, I had to go to my primary care doctor, talk to him first for a referral to a gastroenterologist, then wait for the gastroenterology appointment.
It's because you're under the age that they want people to go. It's because you're under the age that they actually.
I'm over 45.
But it's 50 in most states. 50 is when they want people to start going.
But you would think that they would, because with my brother's risk, you'd think that they'd be like,
it's the insurance companies.
Yeah, it's crazy.
All right. We're gonna stop it here, but family, take care of your health. That's our bottom line message. Don't mess with it. So a few final comments here. Tamara goes, I had my first colonoscopy this year. People, don't be afraid. The prep is not as bad as they say. Get it done.
The prep has actually gotten better.
I'm not worried about the prep. I'm always just worried about the fear that people have is that something will be found. That's what the fear is. It's not, hell, I'll do the prep. It's the fear of like, are they going to find something? That's, you have to sit around and stress yourself out and eat a bunch of ho-hos, and that's it.
Well, don't worry about don't worry about that. It's okay. It's all good. It's all good.
I do. I'm a wreck all the time after all this stuff. A wreck.
All right. Well, before we close out, there were some comments that have to come back on that were mentioned a while back. Ghost Flu said politicians in South Africa also no longer have bills, no longer experience power outages, and have monthly luxury vehicle allowances while the rest of the company is going to MEEP.
Yeah.
There was an athlete you mentioned, Jill, the Oscar Pistorius. That was a gentleman with the.
He gets out next year. Remember, they only gave him 3 years.
Does?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And then they asked for an extension, and so then he got an extra like 15, but time served, whatever. He's out next year.
Also, Ghost says, thanks for the chat, Dr. Vibe and ladies. This was fun. Take care out there for now. Thank you so much. And then going back way when we were talking about Jill and books and music, Tamara goes, that's one of the things that breaks my heart musically is the lack of documentation credits of Prince's music. I mean, what were they entered? I don't know what that means.
Engineers.
engineers doing with all that
I mean,
information.
Dwayne Tudor he
His
wrote the
credit.
book. To his credit, he did all the work. He's done all the hard work in his books to get all the credits, the interviews, the backstories. And to his credit, if it wasn't for Dwayne Tudor, everybody would still be like, singing "I Want to Be Your Lover."
I interviewed Dwayne twice, and honestly, it took him to do the first book. It took him 20 years, and he
tracked down all that information
for the second book, and that's why there was a second book. But it took him 20 years to collect all that. And
unfortunately, sometimes there's a few bad actors in it that like to make certain claims. But it's great how he does that, is that he'll put everybody's claim in this book and then let you decide. If somebody said they wrote Nia Boca before they were even ever thought of or hired, nobody knew them. Which is my song that I wrote with him.
Okay.
I've literally,
memoir stuff.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So
that I'm not even going to acknowledge. It's so ridiculous.
There we go. So family, we're done. Another great conversation. We missed you, Lala, but we hope you're next week. You'll be back in a safe, hopefully safer environment for you.
In Kentucky. Okay.
No comments. So before we catch out and say exit stage left, right, or center, as always, Jill Jones.
I'm not Jill.
Oh, I'm gonna do Aisha. No, I'm gonna go on. I go on Aisha first. I did it wrong. Aisha first, and then that's Jill. Where have you got hold of you?
This is me, Jill D. Jones, Twitter, Jill Jones Music, Instagram. Have a great week, guys.
Aisha K.
For now, Aisha Staggers at Twitter.
Yes, for now. It may change by next week.
Yeah, that's true.
It may change by next week. Myself, you can get a hold of me, Dr. Vibe Show, website, the drvibeshow, email dr@the drvibeshow.com, YouTube and Facebook, the Dr. Vibe Show, Twitter at drvibeshow, and Instagram, the Dr. Vibe Show. Let's see if we have any more comments before we exit here. Almighty, it's always great conversation as always, everyone. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. And we're going to close out with this as per usual. Live your life. Oh, I forgot one other thing. I forgot two things. You can watch replays of this great conversation on the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And you can watch it on my website, the replays on my website, the drvibeshow.com. And also, if you would like to promote your business or service on the show, please contact me at dr@the drvibeshow.com. Now we can close out saying, live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller, get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Remember to give yourselves grace, and also don't just manage your time, manage your energy. We'll see you next week. Be good, be blessed, and keep the faith. Bye, y'all.